Hello and welcome to this second screencast on aerobic training. So we've currently looked at aerobic capacity and maximal oxygen uptake, how VO2 max is affected by the following on this list, and then as well as evaluating different aerobic capacity tests. So today we're going to be concentrating on continuous training, high intensity interval training, and the use of target heart rates as an intensity guide. So before we start, this is a typical exam question you may get, a 6-marker. So describe a high intensity interval training session to improve aerobic capacity and give 2 reasons why HIIT is considered more effective than continuous training. So we obviously need to know about continuous training and HIIT training to be able to answer that question. First of all, continuous training, please make sure you get Cornell notes on this. First of all, your first question is going to be trying to get you the answer. Continuous training, it is a sub-maximal intensity work for a prolonged period of time. So continuous training is sub-maximal intensity work performed for a prolonged period of time. Now, what we need to be aware of, we need to know the full session duration of a continuous training session, the type of work we can actually do within a continuous training session, and then the intensity of that work. So first of all, a continuous training session will go for a minimum of 20 minutes. Okay, so 20 minutes plus really, but we've got 20 to 80 minutes here, but it has to be a minimum of 20 minutes. Up to 80 minutes. The type of work, continuous training, it's this sub-maximum intensity work for a duration of time, so running, cycling, swimming, aerobic dance, rowing, there are loads, okay, just pick one. Type of work, running, that'd be fine. And our work intensity is going to be between 60 and 80% of our heart rate max. So a continuous training session would involve one of you or yourselves going out for a run for up to 80, longer than 20 minutes at a heart rate intensity of 60 to 80% of your heart rate max. So in terms of strengths of continuous training, it's well used by endurance athletes such as a marathon runner, Tour de France cyclist, and so on. Weaknesses are overuse injuries are quite common with regards to continuous training. It's not really sport specific for sports teams. And also it can be classed as quite boring. So they're your strengths and your weaknesses, and then above that you've got a typical kind of continuous training session. Okay, so moving on to continuous training and target heart rate zones. So target heart rate zones are specifically zones we choose to kind of target certain parts of what we want to improve. Okay, so on the left is a pitch that's been used, or graphs that's been used in a specimen paper. So you've got recovery zone, fat burning zone, target heart rate zone, and aerobic threshold zone. The aerobic zone is known as our target heart rate zone, and our aerobic zone, as we know, is 60 to 80% of heart rate max. So this zone here is between 60 and 80% of heart rate max. What we really need to know is the fact that training zones are used to monitor intensity and to ensure correct type of structural adaptations occur, i.e. if we're trying to get aerobic adaptations taking place, we have to work between 60 and 80% of our heart rate max. Okay, so for aerobic adaptations, it has to be between 60 and 80% of heart rate max, which we know, not here rate max. Okay, heart, bit of a typo there. So if you do train below 6 or 8%, it's going to limit our training effect. Okay, you're not really going to get many, if any, adaptations, but it is beneficial for those with health issues or the elderly. And actually, if you are a highly trained athlete, you can train at higher training zones. It'll be easy for you to train above those training zones. That's all we really need with regards to target heart rate zone. The important thing is 60 to 80% of or 60 to 80% is used for aerobic capacity and improving our aerobic capacity. Okay, next part is going to be HIIT. Okay, so high intensity interval training. High intensity interval training is periods of high intensity work followed by periods of rest. Okay, that's really important that you know the definition of this. Periods of high intensity work followed by periods of rest. So first of all, our full session duration for a HIIT training session is going to be between 20 and 60 minutes. Okay, so a bit shorter than aerobic training, okay, because that can go up to 80 minutes. Type of work, running, cycling, cross training. Okay, work intervals, so Now you've got to think it's high intensity work followed by periods of rest. A full session, a full HIIT session, including the rest, will be between 20 and 60 minutes, and you can do running, cycling, cross training. Our work intervals, okay, we need to know the work intensities and work duration for our work intervals. So when we are working this period of high intensity work, we are working at 80 to 95% of our heart rate max, okay, and we're working at this heart rate max for approximately 5 seconds to 8 minutes, anywhere between that. So you might be working at 80 to 90% of your heart rate max for 4 minutes, for example. But it can be between 5 seconds and 8 minutes. So let's say we are doing a period of high intensity work, we are at 80 to 95% of our heart rate max, and we are working for 4 minutes. We need to follow this with a period of rest. Okay, so then the period of rest, the recovery intervals, have to be an intensity of 40 to 50% of our heart rate max, and the duration is 1-to-1 work relief ratio. What this 1-to-1 work relief ratio means is if I work for 4 minutes, I have to rest for 4 minutes. If I worked for 8 minutes, I would rest for 8 minutes. If I worked for 30 seconds, I would rest for 30 seconds. It is a 1-to-1. So periods of high intensity work followed by periods of rest. So if I did a work interval for 4 minutes and then my recovery interval was 4 minutes, that's 8 minutes. I'd have to do that again, which is 16 minutes, and I'd probably have to do it again to hit that between that 20 and 60 minute full session. So the full session between 20 and 60 minutes. Work intervals we have, which is 80 to 95% of heart rate max for a duration of 5 seconds to 8 minutes, anywhere between that. And then our recovery intervals are at 40 to 50% of our heart rate max, and the duration of our recovery is 1-to-1 work relief ratio. Okay, so benefits of high intensity interval training compared to continuous training is it's suitable for all sports. Okay, this is more sport specific than continuous training, because in sports you have periods of work followed by periods of rest or walking around. Shorter duration with similar gains. You can do a really good high intensity interval training session for about 20 minutes and you'll probably get the same gains as, or similar gains as though you did a 60-minute continuous training session. Higher calorie consumption, okay, and this is due to this is during the actual exercise intensity. You are burning more calories per kind of minute work. We have faster adaptations during high intensity interval training compared to continuous training, and also you can do different fitness levels together. Okay, so at your local gym they might have HIIT training sessions, and you can have different age group, different fitness levels, because it's tailored towards you, i.e. working hard for 4 minutes for you as an individual will be different to working hard for 4 minutes for someone else. Okay, so you can have different fitness levels working together. So make sure you get those down. Please make sure you have decent Cornell note questions for high intensity interval training, and then some of the benefits as well for high intensity interval training compared to continuous training. Okay, thanks for that. Speak to you soon.